hungry.
Yeah,
This
I
is my
gotta.
whole problem with changing my diet is I be hungry. Fun fact for anybody watching this, just because you're hungry doesn't mean you make mistakes. All right? I'm so tired of people acting like the line ain't a line just because, like they're like, I want to lose weight. And then I'll be like, yeah, so you might be hungry. This is a reality. I don't want to be hungry while I'm losing weight. Okay. Might just be like, yep, done with this conversation. Done
Gonna
with
be
that conversation.
gonna be a little hungry.
I'm not even hating. Just done with that conversation. Just, we've had some fun conversations in the last week or two. I would say I am exhausted. We're sleep training my son, and then I changed my diet to help. Actually, it's M. Asked me to do the diet with her, and like any good coach should. I try to lead by example. So we're getting ready for the 5K. We're 4 weeks out or 3 weeks out.
I think it's 3 weeks, but
Might be 3 weeks.
I don't know. Time is
At this
crazy.
point, I agree. I'm tired. So like and again, this is not an excuse. We've trained all morning. Literally, I've been training right up before we set the camera up. So this isn't an excuse. This is just me talking. So we've been talking about authenticity a lot in the last like year, right? Like finding our authentic space. And look, we don't really talk relationship stuff on the on Coach's Corner. So, but I'm gonna bring it up a little bit just because, yeah, super important. The whole name of the space or the name of the game is to change relationships with food and fitness, right? And I feel like recently I have been watching people struggle with their relationship with food more than before. Not because there is no relationship with food, but more like their relationship with food is jacked up,
Yeah.
right? You heard me say it earlier. We can control training and how you do things in here, but once you leave, the rest is on you, and we'll just be checking in or trying to hold you accountable to whatever that is.
Yeah.
The amount of self efficacy, bruh, is so crazy. Like some people got it, other people like struggle so hard trying to figure out the medium for everybody, happy medium. So I'm really enjoying what we're doing. In this current season, what would you say is happening to you that is leading to you like we're trying to live more authentically? What's it bringing up? Because I feel like a lot of people think that it's just easy for us to train, to coach, to do everything else. And
It's
again,
not easy.
and I don't.
Yeah. I can speak on that. I feel like it's my first time stepping into this place in my life, and it feels like an increase in capacity. It feels like I'm shedding a skin. It feels painful. And my relationships are exactly what I'm trying to be. They're becoming more authentic, which is a painful process because it's a mirror showing me where I have my blind spots, where I'm fucking up, and just trying to like tighten up on all of those things at the same time feels exhausting. Like I'm doing the running challenge, being consistent with that, being consistent with showing up here on time, getting better at training, getting better at the clerical work behind it, and at the same time I'm running a workshop next month. So trying to get better
Yeah,
at.
first one, right?
Yeah, it's my first one. It'll be my first workshop here in Rochester, and hopefully people can make it out to it. But trying to put all those pieces together, I think I'm not used to it. It's just something that I've seen other people doing at a proficient level, so I know it's possible for me, and it's not fun doing it the first time.
Fair. I think what makes it interesting, not interest like what makes it interesting to me is how much people compartmentalize and don't realize that they do. So like there was a statement from a young lady who was talking about not separating the personal and the business, right? And if it's my lifestyle, then the separation doesn't exist like everybody thinks it does, right? I am the teacher or I am the coach. It's just who I am. So that's going over the side, right? So when you talk to me, I don't turn off my integrity or my morals when we have when I teach or coach. And again, I live by those same principles. I was just having a conversation with some of the ladies in here about how a lot of people would look at my life and say, "Man, he's living Black excellence," right? Like, and that's great, but I never set out to be the example. I just became the example by living to be the best version of myself. I didn't even set out to build this space to be a safer space for groups of queer bodies, right? I just really opened the space and said, we're not gonna hide. We're not gonna do things that put people in a position where they can't feel seen. I was like, and we're gonna be open and honest. And the conversations that have been here in the last, like, I'm gonna say like 2 days, Monday night, I'm trying to think, I don't think nothing really popped up Tuesday, but Wednesday, today, another one. I feel like it's getting normal now. Instead of it being something I was like, man, that was crazy as a convo, it's like, nah, we're starting to see it all the time, which leads to, I know leadership has a large part of that, right? But even more so, it's the journey that we're choosing to take and being real honest in it. Fun fact, we don't mind being wrong, right? We just stand on our convictions and morals. So I don't need to be right, but if you question me on something, I'm probably going to speak from a space where I feel I'm right, right? So having those conversations is super important.
Yeah.
Let's chat about Monday night. Monday night is a great conversation, kind of go over, right? Because a client comes in and goes, I'm trying to be helpful and I'm really bad at receiving gifts, right? What's so funny is I have carefully crafted my ability to accept things, right?
You weren't always good at accepting.
I wasn't always good at them.
Yeah.
Not even close, right? And a lot of people think like, oh yeah, you got it now. It's like, nah, it's a normal thing. Like the more I go up, the more of me I become, the less people give to me, which is so interesting to me because I'm not asking for them to give less, but when they do give, it's like big, majorly, abundantly. Right? So giving even changes in seasons based on my position and where I'm at and what I'm doing. And like, I got used to the small thank yous. I wasn't used to the big gratitudes, right? So like having to adjust to that. Great example is my wife's birthday party. I gave a budget and they just were like, no, we'll pay for this. We'll do this. We'll take care of this. And I'm like, yo, y'all don't have to do that. Like, I'm not asking for that. And they're like, we know we want to do for you. And old me would have just been like, no, you got an agenda. I'm not letting you put your claws in my business.
Yeah.
New me is like, okay, but again, I really don't, you don't have to do this, right? And the reason I bring that up is because I think a lot of people are struggling with what it means to accept themselves, right? Our current authentic journey for all of you, like February we did the hard things, right? And now that we're in, I feel like it's March still, but now that we're in April, like in March we really just worked on being consistent, and now that we're in April we're about to work, now we're working on community. I'm so tired, bro. Like I keep saying that shit, but because I don't think people know, like I just kind of soldier through, persevere through. But then like the more of me I become, I try to use them not as complaining moments, but more like
transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like reflective for people to understand that the space I'm coming from is not a space of I've done everything right and everything is flowing well. It's more of a space of in spite of this, I'm still doing it, right? So I'm trying to pass that along as our message, and like really people really land on that. You want to speak to that because you've been experiencing how the landscape changes.
Yeah, I think there is something to that, and just seeking full authenticity. A lot of the time, maybe it's a Black man thing, to just not complain. Like, all right, yeah, shit's gonna be hard. Let's get it done, or let's show up.
I say that's a man thing, and especially, I would say it's more a man thing.
Yeah. So I do feel that, and I think part of the authenticity is how you walk in that space, because that is part of me, to just do the work and not necessarily complain, but also what is I talk about definitions and words. So I'm like, what do I have a lean on the word complaining? Is there a space for that where I'm looking at it as complaining and it's not necessarily complaining, it's more of the transparency.
Sure.
And I think that's the authenticity I'm trying to reach. How can I speak on how I'm actually feeling in the moment and also not come off like I'm complaining, but let people know that, shit's not easy. Life is hard, just so we can relate. Like, you're saying your life is hard, I'm also saying my life is hard.
Yeah.
And we both have the capacity, we spoke about that earlier, to still do the hard work, do the hard thing through a hard time.
Yeah. Again, and I'm not, I try not to glorify hard times. Like, I see a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
I see people glorify the hard time. I'm not trying to glorify the hard time. I learned a long time ago that in order to get to the next season, you needed to acknowledge and move through. So for me, that's been a thing for years. But trying to hone in on that when it grows, right? Like, when gratitude changes, so does your struggle. The higher I am, the further I have to fall,
Yeah.
right? So really trying to figure out how to move through stuff, and use it in a way. So I'm hoping that this Coach's Corner, first of all, gives you an insight into us as people, and hopefully we can give you some solutions with things that we've experienced and learned to do that will help you feel better and move better and just enjoy life better. I literally go back to an example I have of someone who's always talking about how bad things are, right? And it's so funny, right? Because the first thought in my mind is to compare, right?
Yeah.
Compare my bad to their bad, right? And for some reason, people run from that. Like, I'm not, me comparing isn't to say yours is less than, but it's to say that your stance is different, right? So when this person tells me how bad things are, I don't say, you don't know what bad is, and then shout out about how bad my life was growing up. But what I do is I try to use my own experience to let that person know it isn't that bad, right? That's what I try to do with that person. I mean, every time you complain, again, whatever you put out there, you're affirming it onto your life, right? So if we're talking about affirmations for real, you have the capability to speak death or life via the power of your tongue. So when this person speaks like that, I'm like, nah, we're going the opposite way every single time, right? The other day they mentioned how they couldn't get out of bed. And then I was just like, no, we're going to call a spade, right? This is one of those, you need to help yourself moments by realizing what you're doing and what you're saying and how they're different. So when they said, I can't get out of bed, I said, well, did you use the bathroom this morning? And then they go, well, yeah, but that's different. No, it's not. You actually did get out of bed, right? To disassociate, to compartmentalize is to mess it up. Ironically, I think being a coach here is hard when you try to compartmentalize,
No, very.
right? Like, you can't, to ask me to only be myself in the box you want me to be myself in is to miss the point of what it means for me to be me. And if there's any other coaches or teachers, I'm sure you can identify with this. People like the neat version. They want the version of you they want, and that's it. And sometimes, depending on how close you are living to just being yourself at all times, your stuff leaks through. I'm grateful for a space that we've created here to where I can have a bad day, and it's not like I'll lose a client because I had a bad day, or it's not like I can't come back here because I had a bad day. But also how I have bad days also matters. I don't show up in here and start cussing people out for my bad days. Sometimes I'm just really, really quiet, right? And I've done it enough to where people who know me know that's what that is. Like, I appreciate, you'll see me some days I'm like very amendable and talkable. Some days it'd be 20 minutes before I even want to talk to anybody, and I'm rough and I'm aggressive and I'm like just having a shitty day, guys. Like, but I'm not trying to push that on people.
And I think I want to speak on that. Like, I think it's beautiful you said that in the coach's corner, because I think that's what a lot of people struggle with in the space.
Right.
Especially when you first get in here.
Yeah.
It's will I be accepted in all of me? You know, like can I have a bad day and show up
Yes.
there, or should I stay my ass home?
Fair.
And I hear it from clients a lot of the time. I don't want to come in. I don't want to be perceived a certain type of way. You know, I don't want to cry in space, whatever it is.
We do hear that a lot.
Yeah, and I get it, because there's days I wake up, like, to be real, this morning I was late, and it had nothing to do with anything besides I woke up and I was like, and it was like such a slow start. I woke up late and I had that feeling. So getting up this morning and getting here was a struggle, but we also are speaking on leaving egos at the door.
Yeah.
It just came up in conversation right before we turned the camera on. I feel that is an ethos that people are like starting to pick up too. Is like the energy you walk in here with, you can determine, and the way that you interact with the community, you can determine. So we all have emotions. The way that we act on those emotions is totally up to us, and we're practicing that every time we step into the space. Yeah, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I like how you said that. Like, there was a point in my life. I'll speak to for me, but there was a point in my life where like I wasted so much time, dog. Like, and I watch people do that, and then they'd be like, "Man, I ain't got no time." I'd be like, "You're wasting it." I used to literally sit in front of a computer and play games for 4 hours. You know what I'm saying?
Same.
4 hours gone.
Yeah, same.
Just gone. Like you can't.
Easy.
I can't do nothing with it. All I can do is show you my save file where I spent the 4. Like
Check it out.
Enhance my life. It don't change the lives of those around me. And don't get me wrong, de-stressing is necessary. Take the time you need, but so many people's stress levels are so high and they're self-induced. And I'm just like, yo, you got the same way you put yourself in stress, you can get yourself out. On your journey, fitness journey in general, you have the capability to seize what you need from those moments. Man, I wish people understood that more. The conversations we would have, the spaces that would change, the love that we give out, it would be different, right? If you just allowed yourself to see yourself and be yourself, right? So I'm hoping that this new season of running, like a lot of people either realize that they're running from something or running towards something.
Yeah,
I really hope that that's a thing for a lot of people in the season, right? It's a question I've had to ask myself. I feel like this season I'm leaning on community more than before, just by being honest and showing up. But also, I'm trying to balance that with showing up for myself too, which has been rough in this season. Fair. Then I realize also showing up for myself lets me show up for everybody else. So that, again, those two spaces, crazy.
Yeah. And honestly, that was one of the first things Lynn said to me when I walked into space. Is he's like, yo, I recognize you have a lot of, I was spinning my wheels, you know, I was, didn't really have a plan, goals. I knew what I wanted to accomplish, and I wanted to look for a community, and I wanted to dance. So that's really what I was doing, was I was out looking for community and I was out dancing. But that's it. Other than that, me coming here to Rochester, I was running from something, you know? And Lynn was the first one to ask me, like, yo, when you running, what are you running from? You know, and if you're standing still, what are you standing for? I've asked myself that a lot. And since we started this run challenge, I actually asked myself, what am I running towards for the first time? You know, and that is powerful to me as transformative, because I've never asked myself that question. Yeah.
I like to think that being a man in general is a lonely journey. Like being a man that people can depend on, can call, like it's literally a lonely path, right? And I don't mean that to be like to belittle those who have friends and family.
Yeah.
In order to be the type of man who could be respected, I had to go seek knowledge to be prepared for those moments. When we train, you know, there's been days like we're coming in at 5 o'clock. So there's been days no one's here. I'm the only one here. And I love when people show up, but there's been days I've been the only one here, and that shit gets lonely, and I feel it like deep in my persons. You get what I'm saying? Like in my, I say in my soul. And then you go home, and this is to no fault. This is not a blame game. This is to say they don't understand, right? So you go home and you're like, man, I had a rough day, and the first thing you're hit with is whatever the environment you created does. For me, I go home to a wife who is exhausted by my son and her ability to provide for him, right? Then our conversations usually go to that. They go to providing for him and giving her space because she needs space, even though I'm seeking my own space. So I have to bottle it up and then go, okay, what do you need me to do? Right? That time isn't time to self. And what I used to do with that is I used to use that as a way to attack the people around me, right? Like I would go in, I would say, I would be like, they don't understand me and they don't want to. Let me go sit in this room for 4 hours. Like that's not how that works, right? So a lot of the times the answer we're looking for is right in front of us. If I wanted my wife to be happier, I can literally spend time with her and that can happen, right? If I want my son to be a young man of character, then why am I not spending time to make sure that he is, right? A happy mother raises a good son. A father who spends time with his son becomes the son then takes on the integrity and values of the person he spends the most time with. So it's so funny to think that we have so much control and we just give it up with no question and no effort and no fight and then go, I don't know what to do. You can only learn what to do in those moments of solitude and seeking. Socrates, right?
Yeah.
Did you know Socrates was a humongous warrior?
No.
Like 3 tours in 3 major wars, warrior.
No.
Exactly. Socrates is one of the greatest philosophers to ever exist. That man was a warrior. Like, you cannot, in my opinion, as a man, your thing to do is to create and to be like we are. And what I mean by that is to have deep thoughts, ask yourself hard questions, temper your steel in your spare time. When I'm by myself, I'm trying to grow this thing so I have a larger capacity for everything. I'm not sitting in the corner depressed, but I am dealing with what be anxiety, depression. My PTSD does pop up from time to time. Um, I was with the other day on Monday, and I'm sharing this so y'all learn from it. I had this moment where everything started to ring, and I couldn't hear. I was a little jacked up, to be honest. And Emily noticed. I was just quiet. Like I wasn't mad. I wasn't angry. It was right before I went running with her. Right, my mind was just running at 100 miles a minute, and I just could not get it to stop. So much so that my ears started to ring, and like in those moments, who's around helps. Fair, like the environment you created helps. In those moments, I'm grateful as a man for my honesty and ability to help others because I get the help I need. Before, when I would sit in those rooms by myself, I wasn't getting that. It was just when those would happen, I was just going through the
Going
same
through it.
cycle over and over. But in this time, like, I mean, this woman basically danced around me. It was like, hey, what's wrong? I went home. My wife was amazingly pleasant. Like, again, it was one of those like weird moments. My wife centered me, but M helped me focus, right? So because she helped me focus, I was able to function. But when I went home, I let my guard down. You get what I'm saying? And when I went home to my wife and let my guard down, man, I didn't realize how much I was holding in there. You get what I'm saying? And that becomes the thing. We increase our capacity so we can continue to do. But you gotta have a space you can reset. Absolutely. So I didn't mean to get into mental health, but A lot of what we do here is exactly that. So many people are dealing with things beyond what they even understand. And as coaches, I feel like our job is to give them not necessarily the answer, but tools to process. You do that, you change a person's life.
Right.
So hopefully, going into this next season, we'll develop our own tools to help other people process and get what they need. Because man, this season, like it's even dreary outside. It's a tough. I feel like the first quarter is always a hard quarter
Oh,
for so
yeah.
many people. Leading into the second a little bit, but first quarter is rough. So many people start things that they quit and don't do anymore. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that via these messages, like I don't care if one person watches these videos or these snippets, as long as somebody watches them, we can change someone's lives. That's all we do it for. One person is enough for me,
Yeah.
literally one. So I'm excited for what that means. I hope that when people see this message, they realize that if you do need someone to talk to about your mental health, we are more than happy to help as much as we can and offer resource. And our community is full of amazing people who have more resources than I could ever have by
It really
myself.
is. Yeah.
Right? So we hope that you reach out, again, talk to, get to know people. But seriously, mental health is real and you cannot go it alone. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Should we get out of here?
I think
That.
that's it.
I'm fucking tired.